Hi, my name's Abdullah Adekola. I'm a Black British poet, writer, creative wellbeing practitioner, and I work in mental health. I'm very passionate about creativity and well-being, and I love introducing people to poetry as a vehicle for expressing themselves and exploring their mental health. I'm very passionate about mental health recovery, and I've been living in Leeds over 20 years. Went to school here, and still enjoying it. And very passionate about arts and well-being and creativity in Leeds. Just celebrated Carnival, which is amazing, another year. And I'm very passionate about kind of exploring and expressing myself with art and poetry, and looking forward to this conversation. So in terms of my journey up to now, went to school here. School was, relatively okay. At university, I experienced some struggles. Obviously, first time being away from home, first time being in that high stress. Even at A level was a bit of a struggle as well, but that high pressure, high stress environment. Turns out later that I was had some specific learning needs. So maybe similar to dyslexia, which my sister has, and thankfully she was able to get support in time and graduate. And but I think I was just try harder, just struggle on, and and that kind of thing, and and that worked for a while, but it ended up not working. So that was where I could have spoken up a bit more if I had known what support is out there and whatnot. And that's experiences a lot of other people, a lot of other, especially Black people, people from working class backgrounds. They don't they might end up getting depressed at university. Loneliness, isolation. And then also you have the fact that maybe they might have a learning need that they may not even be aware of. It just compounds it. So I'm just so I try and kind of speak up about my experiences, share that with other people, and I think low mood, depression, these kind of things. These are things that can affect anyone from time to time, but it can maybe last longer, or it can be more intense if you're also not aware of what support is out there. And if you kind of I'm an elder sibling as well, so I've always been try to keep it together and be a good example and all these kind of things. So it sometimes takes a while to realize, oh, actually I'm struggling and I need some support, and hopefully I was able to get some support. And I think when I found out about poetry and creativity, that was something that I was like, okay, this is something that helps me express myself, helps me process my feelings. And so it's something I took to it, and I'm still enjoying it and trying to share that with more people. But I do think there's still more to be done in terms of Black people, men in general, people from maybe backgrounds that are maybe from minority backgrounds, that there can be more to be done in terms of being allowed and feeling comfortable to express themselves, and then also being able to connect with actual support as well. So there's some trying to kind of do my bit in that space. So in terms of supporting tackling racial inequalities and supporting men from diverse backgrounds, black and different heritage backgrounds. So I led on a project called Young Black Minds. So that was specifically young Black men, and the first iteration of that service. And it was and working with the Black Health Initiative. We started that obviously kind of during 2020, and obviously there was a lockdown. It was an additional difficulty beyond just the normal of starting a new service or kind of and promoting it to people. But it was a lot of hard work and a lot of networks and contacts, and in the city, we were with support from people like Black Health Initiative, Leeds Mind, and others, were able to kind of get a service off the ground viable, and it was well received, well attended, and that was peer support was the main focus, was the main approach there, and then from there now I'm in more of a mental health, more of like a clinical mental health practitioner role, mainly focused on CBT, but still working in an organization that's quite diverse, and tries to aim to serve, Touchstone tries to aim to serve young people from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds. So, and then obviously in terms of creatively as well, I'm in these circles, I try to kind of speak to my experience, but also kind of find out what young people, what people are going through, and then reflect that in my art. So yeah, so it's so there's different kind of because when I'm in a more clinical corporate setting, we look at obviously research and data, and we focus groups, and we'll try to advocate on a strategy on a national level and local level, what is needed, but then also also just on a personal level as well. In terms of working people from diverse backgrounds, I've been helping to facilitate a low mood using Islam CBT group, and so it's mainly it's just adapted. So it's mainly it's the CBT that we normally that's been clinically shown to help with depression and things like symptoms of depression. And yeah, so because obviously the data is showing that people from a Muslim minority background, are less likely to access CBT support, and also less likely to have maybe a good outcome. So this research led that what about if we use what people's faith are already people who already have faith, and then just kind of adapt the CBT to that, so it's helping to facilitate an 8-week course with some facilitators, CBT therapists, and people like that. And it was well attended and well received, and and then some people were able to be in recovery, some people were able to go into needing more support 1-to-1, and it's I think it's something that is done nationally in different places, maybe adapted more for 1-to-1, adapted to groups, but it's obviously I'm a Muslim as well, but I think having that maybe that male perspective, or having that just someone that's slightly different, really different age or different class or different experience perspective, that helps as well. So I think it's I'm very open to I think I'm very passionate about tackling mental health inequalities, not for Black people, for males, for Muslims, but also just for people who are not being served fully by the by the system that we have. So I think that's very important as well, because I get inspiration and support from people who aren't Muslim, who aren't Black, and I feel I try to offer that as well. So I think that's very important too, is that empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes and whatnot, and trying to make sure that person gets as good an experience as possible. So how has David Oluwale inspired me? So I'm a board member of the David Oluwale Memorial Association, that joined in about 2020, and as you might know, David Oluwale, Nigeria was a British colony, so he was a British citizen at the time. Came to the UK, Hull initially, landed in Leeds, he experienced police brutality, had electroshock therapy, and was in prison, was homeless, and was harassed to his death by 2 Leeds police, and ultimately people have tried to remember his death, and learn the lessons from that, as time has gone on. So I think it inspires me. Obviously there's some parallels to his. I know I'm Nigerian as well. David he was a person with Yoruba background from Nigeria, so coming to Leeds, so there's some similarities in that, and obviously but thankfully I've managed to have a maybe more positive experience in Leeds, and pray that continues to be the case. But learning the lessons from him, advocating, wanting Leeds to be a more welcoming place, wanting Leeds to be better on mental health, better on homelessness, better on migrants, refugees, and you can see there's still a long way to go. Obviously, as we know, we had in anti-migrant, anti-Muslim, anti-refugee, anti-Black people kind of racial riots and in this past summer. So it goes to show that there's still a long way to go, and that we need to also focus on like community as well. Focus on community because I think that's what's gonna really that's what's gonna save us. That's what's gonna. It's not so much as it's telling stories, making if you trying to humanize yourself and tell your own story, then hopefully someone who's open-minded will listen and will see someone else's humanity. They'll see that the problems of this country is it's very unlikely that it's caused by someone who's fleeing war and fleeing and then and trying to make ends meet here. It's the focus is probably elsewhere, but it's easy to just point and say, oh, it's it's these black people, these brown people, these Muslim people who they're the reason why you can't. Why the reason why you're on a lot of waiting lists for the healthcare or there's housing, and it's and it's more complicated and more nuanced conversations to be had. But yeah, I think I'm remembering the past to kind of improve, to kind of make a better future, and I'm very keen for black people and blackness to still be relevant and relevant in the future. I think there's a feeling that that our what we want, what we need is maybe gets pushed down the agenda, and then it's only when in times of crisis that it gets brought up. If you look at Black Square Summer 2020, and then it gets forgotten about. So I think it's for me, that's very important to humanizing black people and letting people know that black people are part of their future as well. It's important too. What do I want to see in terms of allyship, and what do I want to see in terms of a collective vision for the future? So speaking of allyship, I look at myself and I want to be allied to women. I want to be allied. I want to be allied to people from LGBT backgrounds. I want to be allied to people from working class. And then so, it's important, like I mentioned before, I take inspiration and support and friendship from people who don't have my direct experience. And so I think it's important to also to offer that, that thing of life, none of us are free until all of us are free. And so I think that's very important. And, it's something that, something that I think is, I try to be conscious of and mindful of. I'll always can be doing better at, you have might have some cultural lens that you see the world, maybe a religious lens that you see the world or whatnot, but it's important to challenge your preconceptions and things like that. So I think that's very important. And then in terms of allyship and what someone wants to call themselves an ally, it's about first of all, seeing who you're wanting to be an ally with, seeing them as human beings with their full, well-rounded human beings. So, not kind of just like when not kind of, not wanting to take credit for things that they've originated or they've, or they've innovated, they've originated, or just enjoying people's cultural outputs without actually recognizing them as human beings. So, and I think there's more that we can do in that regard, because I think sometimes people might be focused on activism abroad, maybe in the USA, or maybe maybe in the USA, but not seeing how that links to here. So I think that's important. That's important. That, and then also, like I mentioned, I'm part of a group of different communities here. But right now, there's a lot going on in the world. There's got Hurricane Beryl, you got Palestine, Congo, and Somalia. So it's, of course, you're not going to know maybe as much about everything, but understanding that how things that are happening in the world might affect people here. So I think that's important. And then also, what are you doing in terms of like mutual? And this is something that I'm new to and want to think about more. What are you doing in terms of maybe mutual aid and community here? Because the cost of living is affecting all types of people here, but it's going to affect the poorest and more, and a lot of times black people and in that category. So I think obviously the scale of the challenges is big in terms of, we're talking about cost of living, we're talking about racial inequality and mental health inequalities, but it's about, okay, what can you do in your day to day, in your role? What can you add to, things that you're conscious about? So I think that's very key. And then I think if any organizations, institutions, are serious about allyship and want it, then it's about, you have to put the money where you have to put, your money where your mouth is, kind of thing. You have to, with resources, like, what do you want to achieve by when? That's to be that's something that's done together. And then it has to be, an ongoing thing, it's not going to be something that you can write check for once and then it's done. It's not going to be. So I think understanding and embracing that is how we're going to be able to tackle inequalities, and we're going to be able to, for people to, to see progress.